Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining, reviewing, watching this Max group. This month's topic is based on self-improvement and different areas of self-improvement. I'm going to be sharing a little something about creativity. I feel like we usually don't give ourselves the reason to be creative or get creative unless it's someone tells us to or we're assigned to. And some people are really good at, finding ways to express themselves in a creative way. Um, a lot of us, I think, feel like we need to be more um, task oriented and whatnot. But the ironic part about that is that creativity helps us improve our productivity and problem solving and all those things that we're going to talk about. Okay, so I was researching and kind of I like to understand where words come from and how they kind of evolve over time. And the like original baseline for creativity is to create or to make. Um, but as I was looking up stuff and kind of getting more context and background on creativity and just how it can be applicable to us, I noticed that something that obvious to me is different fields have different definitions of creativity. There's a lot of different views on what creativity means and how it's used, and depending on kind of the field that's presenting it. So I thought that was interesting because I think a lot of times we think of creativity as something that's of the arts or like an artistic creativity, but a lot of the definitions I was running into and finding had a lot to do with problem solving. So I thought that was might be helpful for some people that hear the word, oh, get creative or whatever. They might shut it down because they associate it with specific meaning. So um, what I found was that depending on the field or the area, the definitions were a little different. And but what was apparent in kind of the stream, um, where what was connecting was that creativity is is a very important aspect of our human experience and human development. So it can help with like things like problem solving, reducing stress, adapting to change, our productivity, like I mentioned before, growth, relationships, and connection. I think that's a really important one. And then it can help add purpose and meaning to our lives. So creativity is really important. So one way that uh, this model was kind of developed, the 4C model of creativity, to kind of um, reconcile some of those differences among the fields and kind of bring um, a collaborative take on what creativity is. And this model has the mini C, which is like a type of creativity. So it kind of describes four modes of creativity, I guess. The mini C is like those personal, meaningful interpretations of experiences, actions, and insights. Little C is everyday problem solving or creative expression. Pro C is professionally or vocationally creative, um, like people that use their creativity for professional meaning uses. And then big C is creativity that's seen as or considered as great in a given field. Um, Arne Dietrich, he is a brain scientist and he has studied the brain and he has books on the brain. And I found this. he described, or he put creativity in an axis. And so this is kind of a scale of different people have different kind of ways that they um, find themselves being creative. Um, so there's the cognitive and deliberate, and that's kind of very like a focused attention. The brain's making sense of information it already has to create something. So he used like Thomas Edison as an example. And then there's the cognitive spontaneous, and these type of people who tend to fit more in this side of the scale, um, they need time to kind of process. So their brain will continue to process information while they're doing something else. So that's kind of where the spontaneous aspect comes in. And he described like when Newton thought of gravity as he was watching an apple fall. So he was working on something, he was problem solving, but he was giving his brain that time. And so it's kind of working in the background. And then it kind of spontaneously came up for him. Um, then there's the emotional deliberate. So this one was a little more confusing for me to understand, but um, kind of using questions rather than studying to problem solve. So giving again that time to kind of process this emotional processing. And later the presentation mentions how creativity actually helps us. Some creative expressions and activities help you get in touch with the parts of the brain that process emotion. So I think that's kind of what this is talking about. And then the emotional spontaneous, that's kind of what we associate, I think, typically um, in the media and stuff of like what creativity is. And those are artists, musicians, things like that we kind of associate with the arts. So I want you to kind of think about how you view creativity based on your worldview and the meanings that you have. And does it help you? Or have you felt yourself being limited in this aspect because you have a smaller view on what creativity is? Um, Kind of like noticing yourself in areas that you feel like you do exceed in or feel good in, feel renewed. Maybe there's some creativity going on that you didn't realize was happening. Okay, so creativity and mental health, that's kind of where we are focusing in this little, for our purposes in this group. Um, there's a lot of parallels with creativity and mental health. So there's a lot of studies about how um, there's correlations between creative occupations and mental illness. People with like neurodivergent thinking, there's like have occupations that are more considered more artistic or creative. There's a lot of those people with that type of brain um, in those fields. And so there's a lot of parallels with it, which I think makes sense when you understand um, what parts of the brain are working and how they're working together. Um, Mental illness can actually aid in creativity, but it's not necessarily needed as well. They've also kind of wanted to emphasize that you don't have to have mental illness to be creative, but there is a lot of parallels and correlation between that, which if you think about back earlier that creativity helps problem solve, um, get in touch with those parts of your brain. And I want you to like look back on yourself and notice, for me, like I noticed that in my life when I've been in hard times or more difficult times, that I also got in touch with parts of me that I didn't know were there, and that I was able to kind of, yes, in a way, like artistically express myself, but also find new ways to cope and to get myself out of that, and also like get you to even a better self. So I really love that in those difficult moments where we might feel stuck, it actually kicks us into this different part of our brains that is so beautiful, that helps us get um, on a new path, or think of things in a new perspective, or create something really awesome, or something useful. So it's just a hopeful idea to me to be able to, yeah, we don't like to suffer, but also that's where a lot of good things come from, is in those moments. So um, there's also findings that people who struggle with mental illness have a capacity to see things that other people don't see. Um, they see things in the world around them in a more original way. So I thought that was really awesome and insightful. So yes, there's like the parallels, and then there's also like creativity aids in our mental health, which I think is, people know that, and but actually putting it to use and knowing how to put it to use, I think we can find what works for us. Um, so creativity like can have the ability to activate both sides of our, or stimulate both sides of our brain, which we're finding is really helpful with mental health. And so they, like an example would be like painting or using your hands, that hand-eye coordination um, activates the right side of your brain. And then like memory, so like memorizing something, like maybe a poem or a dance, or um, a speech or something like that, is that activating that left side. Um, and then I said earlier that creative expression kind of helps activate the parts that process emotion. And if you worked at Cash Value Counseling at all, that's a lot of what we're doing, is helping people process those difficult emotions. Um, so like sometimes I'll have clients draw things out, or um, we'll do a lot of play therapy. Well, I don't personally, but our therapists will do play therapy and find different ways to access different parts of the brain to express themselves, which is really cool. And then um, creativity in general has a tendency to help people build that sense of connection between others. And when we feel connected, we feel more purpose, we feel less stress. There's so many, to me, being connected um, emotionally and physically, spiritually, that connection really is like a big purpose in our point of our life. So really good things from for mental health in regards to creativity. To give kind of something to do with all this. So here's some activities that I was just thinking of, things that sounded fun and exciting to me. So if these don't sound fun and exciting, then don't force yourself, but also maybe stretch yourself to grow and try something new. So one example I thought was going to a movie or watching a movie, and then coordinating your menu um, that night for dinner or whatever, to go with the movie. So maybe it's like an era or a different type of ethnic food. So I thought that was a fun way to kind of stimulate your brain and feel there's that sense of connection. And then a brain dump. So I'll do this with clients a lot, where whatever is kind of going on in your brain, you think you understand it, you think you have this problem, but as soon as you write it down or draw it, a different experience happens. So whatever's been circling around in there for the past couple of days, or weeks or whatever, try writing it down. And yes, you can journal, like journaling is a type of this, but there's something about just getting a piece of paper and putting on the paper whatever happens that is therapeutic, and it's kind of fun, and it helps you express it in a different way, look at it in a different way. You might answer your question that you've been trying to answer for a long time. You'll notice this like when you go to ask a question to somebody that you might actually answer it in that experience because you're stimulating parts of your brain. Um, and then another fun one was to get some flowers and arrange a selection of flowers and try arranging them in a vase or a vessel of some sort. Um, if you don't like flowers, I thought you could get like a succulent and then pick out um, a vessel that helps you express something in some way. Maybe it brings you joy. Um, maybe it reminds you of somebody. Um, maybe it reminds you of a goal or a focus of your life. Just get creative, see what happens. And all of these should be like, it should feel like you're playing or you're getting that connection or fostering creativity in a new way. So have fun with it. There's lots of these activities, different things. That doesn't have to be a big deal. Um, it's just to help you experience this and notice it in different ways in your life. Maybe you're already doing it, or where you could spend a little more time and maybe come up with some solutions you haven't before. So good job and keep going. We'll see you next time.